On a rainy day, we find a girl strolling past a park with her trusty umbrella in hand. As she moves along, she overhears the hurried voices of 3 boys nearby. They seem anxious, clearly eager to avoid getting caught. They argue about leaving someone behind. One of them, in a hasty tone, mutters that it serves Zen right before they all take off. Intrigued, the girl tries to piece together what's going on. In the park, she sees a badly injured boy sitting against a pole. People passing by him begin to talk about, speculating if there is a fight. They wonder why a boy who seems to be a high school student is in a place like this and whether he is okay. They hesitate to report the incident to the police, fearing it might be taken the wrong way. The girl approaches the boy. She gives him an umbrella and asks if she should call an ambulance. He refuses, so she puts it down and places a towel on his head. It's a new towel, so no worries, she assures him. She writes down the address of a hospital on a piece of paper, places it in his hand, and tells him to go to a nearby hospital that accepts emergency outpatients. Then she leaves, and he makes his way to the hospital. Her name is Amakawa Risa. At school, she thanks her fellow teacher, Mizuki-sensei, for his help. She offers him her assignment from the previous day. He is surprised and impressed to see that she has completed it. He asks why she is working so hard and offers to help her whenever needed. She notices that he is wearing mismatched socks and asks him about it. Embarrassed, he admits he didn't even notice and requests her to keep it a secret. He starts explaining something to her, but she finds herself distracted by his cuteness, thinking he must have put on the socks half asleep in the morning. He asks if she is listening, but she isn't. When he repeats himself, a girl walking by points out his mismatched socks. He thanks her, and she compliments him, saying it looks trendy. Later, in a burger shop, the injured boy from the park sits beside her. He is thinking about whether they could ever be like the people around them. When she notices him, she becomes confused and stops eating. He points out that her ketchup is spilling. She looks down to find a stain on her uniform. She rummages through her bag and pulls out stain remover drops, tissues, and a pocket fan to dry her uniform. She asks who he is, and he begins to admire her for having everything at hand: the towel, the hospital information, even lending him an umbrella when she already had one. She recognizes him as the delinquent from before. He bows his head and thanks her. She returns the gesture and says she's happy to see he's okay. He explains that he went to the hospital after she left, and if it weren't for her, he might have lost his eyesight. He thanks her again. She gets up to leave, but he stops her, asking if they can talk a bit more. She finds it strange to chat with a stranger and says she's glad to have helped him, and leaves. He mutters that she's a cold sort of person. He insists on returning the favor for her help. She asks if that's his hobby. He clarifies it isn't what he meant. She muses about him wanting to repay her like the crane in a Japanese tale. He mentions his hobby is fighting one-on-one, to which she taunts him as a beaten-up delinquent. She tells him she didn't help him to get something in return. He thinks that's precisely why he's impressed by her and wants to help her next time. She bluntly says there's no need. She is fine with whatever comes her way. She tells him there's nothing special about helping someone, so he doesn't need to repay her. She excuses herself, saying she's late for school. She is surprised by his integrity for a delinquent and thinks of him as an injured crane. In her mind, she hopes this kind delinquent does his best in life. Later, she writes on a paper that she is nervous about the upcoming mock exam and wants to ask a question privately. When she goes to Mizuki-sensei, her classmates also approach him with questions. She feels overwhelmed and begins to think about her lung capacity. They ask Mizuki about a girl they saw with him at the station last night, wondering if she's his girlfriend. He confirms that she is, and they marvel at her cuteness. He describes her as honestly cute on the inside and seems shy to share more. Mizuki then asks Risa if she has a question. She brushes it off, saying she was just passing by. Mizuki tells her she doesn't need his help. She is already excellent and hardworking, with nothing left for him to teach her. She seems upset and turns to leave. He asks again if she needs help, but she insists she will figure it out herself. He is puzzled by her reaction, and another girl remarks that Risa always acts like she knows it all. Risa sits on the stairs and begins to cry. She questions why she behaves this way, wishing she could rely on others more and be more open. She recalls Mizuki-sensei's words about his girlfriend and finds herself wishing she could be like her. Just then, the delinquent from earlier overhears her, startling her. He casually remarks that there's no problem with her being aloof because he likes aloof girls too. She asks what he is doing there, but he doesn't answer directly and says he thinks it's fate. He looks at her intensely, which confuses her. She tries to leave. noting he doesn't seem fazed by anything. He reminds her to take her bag and comments on how heavy it is. She says it contains nothing valuable and asks him to give it to her. He offers to carry it for her, but she refuses. He thinks to himself that her bag carries the weight of distancing herself from people. He holds her arm, rubs her cheek, and gazes deeply into her eyes. She feels dizzy and is about to fall when he catches her by the waist. He explains he only wanted to wipe her tears. She insists she isn't crying and that she has a handkerchief. He tells her that right now she doesn't need a handkerchief. She needs a man's shoulder. He asks for a piece of paper and a pen, as well as her name. She tells him her name is Amakawa Risa. He repeats it with a smile and says it sounds nice. Standing on a higher step, he hands her a return the favor coupon, labeled help coupon for Risa only. He tells her to rely on him whenever she's in trouble, promising to help her no matter what, declaring himself a man of principles. She is taken aback by his artistic skills and thinks he is a chirpy delinquent. She notes he isn't much taller than her and that her muscles are probably stronger than his. She can't imagine relying on him. She believes her exam ticket is in her pocket. In her bag, she carries writing utensils, a watch, and indoor shoes, along with masks, medicines for headaches and stomachaches, and eye drops. The only thing left for her to do is review her reference books for the exam. She begins reading while sitting on a bench along the way. As she reads, she grows sad when she comes across a question she had answered with Mizuki. 3 boys walk by, and just as she is about to leave, her bag accidentally bumps into one of the boys' shoulders. She quickly apologizes for hitting him, but he complains that she nearly broke it and might need physical therapy. She responds, saying it wasn't that hard. One of the boys, named Fimia-kun, hushes him, reminding him she is a girl. She tries to remember where she has seen Fimia-kun before. He questions why she is wearing a uniform on a Saturday and invites her to eat with them. He also asks if she has finished her club activities, showing his typical way of flirting with girls. Then she recalls seeing him with Zen, the person who was at the park that day. He asks if she saw them or if Zen mentioned them, pressing her further about whether she knows Zen. He urges her to come with them for a bit. She suddenly shouts it's Hashimoto Kana. When they look behind them, she seizes the moment to run away. Fimia-kun grabs her bag, but it proves too heavy to carry. He orders his friends to chase after her and bring her back. As she continues running, she wonders why this is happening. She slips and falls on the road but quickly hides behind a shop poster. The boys keep searching for her and insult her, saying she must have a death wish for infuriating Fimia-kun. She considers running again, but realizes she can't. Her foot is injured. She knows she can't make it in time for her mock exam without her bag. As they continue to look for her, she thinks about using the help coupon to ask that delinquent for help. However, she quickly remembers he could get hurt since these boys are bad at fighting. She thinks about Mizuki and the delinquent, Zen, and contemplates asking someone else for help. Exhausted, she believes that life is about being self-reliant. It's too late for her to start depending on others, as she has lived her whole life independently. Fimia-kun finally spots her and starts to approach, but Zen suddenly appears out of nowhere and kicks him. She is shocked to see Zen and immediately becomes concerned about him. She asks why he has come. He asks if she is okay and whether she can stand. He explains he has been waiting for her to use the coupon and insists that she should use it now. Another boy tries to approach them, but Zen kicks him as well, saying he had been waiting for his phone to ring. She questions his reckless behavior, wondering why he is acting so wildly. He warns the boys to stay away from Risa. She tells Zen he is just like them. More boys gather around them, and Fimia-kun announces that his backup has arrived and the situation is over. She steps between Zen and the boys, trying to calm things down. She apologizes for hurting their friends and explains there is a reason behind the incident. She urges them to avoid violence and suggests they talk it out instead. A boy named Tuji steps closer to her and mocks her, asking why she thinks they're friends with trash like them. He is Zen's best friend, but Zen slaps him for getting too close to her and leaves the rest to him. She asks Zen what is happening, and he reassures her that the boys are with him and there's no need to worry. He tells her she needs to go where she is supposed to be and offers to take her there. She mentions her mock exam but says her bag is missing. He promises to find it later, insisting they should leave now. She hesitates to get on his motorcycle, having never ridden one before. Zen tells her to get on, promising it will only take 10 minutes. He helps her onto the bike, carrying her, and tells her to hold on while seated. Panicked, she asks where she should hold on. He tells her to trust him and stop complaining, but she insists they should take the train instead. He instructs her on how to sit, but she remains confused about where to place her legs. He guides her to hold onto his sides, lean her body forward, and keep her center of gravity steady. He encourages her to enjoy the ride and the view. For the first time, she finds the view beautiful. Unsure of what is happening, she asks why he is going so far to help her. Zen replies that on that rainy day, she had reached out her hand when everyone else just walked by and pretended not to see him. At that moment, he had wanted an excuse to see that kind of girl again. When they reach the school, Zen gets off the bike, and she is dazed as she looks at him. As she tries to dismount, she slips and falls onto him. But he catches her in his arms. She quickly apologizes and is about to leave when he pulls her back and asks if they made it on time. She replies that they did, somehow, and then leaves. He tells her to take care of her foot. She feels her trembling feet and wonders if she is afraid of him. She turns back and thanks him for bringing her there. She thinks to herself that they made it just in time. She would have surely been late if she had taken the train. She feels relieved to find something to write in her locker, and her exam ticket is safely in her pocket. She feels light without her bag weighing her down. With things having ended safely, she decides to look for her bag. She overhears two girls talking near the door on the first floor. They speculate that someone is waiting for his girlfriend, describing him as looking like a delinquent from Suka High School. One girl mentions that her cousin goes there and that there seems to be a crazy fight happening at their school. She remembers that the boy's name is Ohira Zen. Hearing this, Risa runs toward the commotion. She is shocked to see Zen holding her bag. When she tries to take it back, he moves it out of her reach and offers to take her home. They exchange a silent glance. Just like the engine of the bike she rode earlier, her heart has been ignited. She firmly refuses to go with him, but he points out that she's hurt her foot. Noticing her response, his mood sinks, feeling as though she's undoing the progress they've made. Clenching her bag, she quickly responds that it's not like that. She understands how he feels. She admits she shares the same sentiment toward him and expresses a desire to repay him somehow, though she confesses she isn't skilled at fighting. He wonders aloud what he should ask her to do, but she tells him she won't do anything. Just then, Mizuki-sensei arrives and informs Amakawa-san that those who want to grade their papers can go home. He asks if she plans to grade them together, but she declines, saying she already intends to do it at home. As she is about to leave, Zen reminds her that he is still talking to her. Risa says their conversation is already over, bows her head, and walks away. While she waits for the elevator, Mizuki points out that she hasn't pressed the button, and she acknowledges that's why the elevator isn't there yet. Zen tells Risa that she has forgotten something. As she turns away, he grabs her hand and leans in, whispering if Mizuki is the reason she was crying and asking if he should beat him up. Risa tells him he is wrong. Mizuki calls her over and asks about her boyfriend. She clarifies that Zen is not her boyfriend and that she isn't interested in such things. Mizuki apologizes, realizing it could be seen as sexual harassment, and vows to be more careful. Risa places her head down on the bench, and her classmates speculate that she might be meditating or that she couldn't clear the mock test. They are surprised to see her preparing to study and remark, as expected, that she is indeed a tough girl. Later at home, she continues studying late into the night. In bed, her thoughts drift back to how, despite Sensei having a girlfriend, he doesn't seem to prioritize her. She tends to over-explain to avoid any misunderstandings. Then she recalls Zen offering to beat up Mizuki, and fed up with her thoughts, she resumes studying again. At a cafe, she is engrossed in her work when Zen arrives with his friends. Startled to see them all, she asks what's going on. Zen introduces his friends, whom she has already seen, saying they wanted to meet her. Ryu, curious, asks if she fell in love with Zen at first sight because she helped him. Zen quickly quiets him, saying Ryu is embarrassing her. Rako asks for some of her fries, and she gives them all to him. She tells them to enjoy themselves and tries to leave the cafe. Zen asks her to stay, but she insists she needs to study. He suggests they study together, revealing that except for Tuji, they are all second-year students at risk of repeating a year. She guesses they are quite close. Zen explains that since they might all end up repeating the year, they need her as their tutor. She agrees and asks them to open their textbooks. Noticing that they have different books due to being from different schools, she points out that she can't teach them without looking at their books. Zen is surprised at her willingness. She says she's committed to repaying him, so she asks them to show their books, but none of them have any. Frustrated, she tells them if they don't have books, they should pretend the conversation never happened, and she gets ready to leave. Zen asks Tuji to get the books, but she suggests Zen should get them himself. He replies it would be painful for him, and having friends is convenient. She is surprised that he calls on his friends. The group urges Tuji to run, betting on how long it will take him to return. She says she doesn't want to get along with them. Zen's friends plead with him to stop her and ask why she is upset. They inquire about his plan, and Zen simply giggles. They comment that Risa is so cool, like a samurai. Outside the cafe, Tuji asks Risa why she is following him. She explains that as their tutor, she is also responsible for ensuring they have the right books, so she is here to help him get them. She asks about the staff room so she can inform a teacher and get the books. Tuji tells her that the teachers are not present after school since they are scared of being attacked by students and leave as soon as school is over. He advises her to go back to Zen, where she will be safer. She questions why he listens to Zen, even though Zen treats him like an errand boy. Tuji then asks if she hasn't noticed that the Fumin gang has been following her all day because she is involved with Zen. She is furious upon learning she has been followed. Tuji explains that Zen is protecting her without her knowing, and the gang won't hurt her as long as Zen is around. Zen couldn't leave her alone for her sake. She asks about their relationship with the Fumin gang. He explains that Fumia-kun is looking for Zen's weaknesses to use them against him. Because of her association with Zen, they'll naturally target her. She quickly clarifies that there's nothing between her and Zen. Tuji suggests she explain that to the guys after her, reminding her that he's not obligated to protect her. He advises her to run before they catch up to her. Risa overhears the Fumin gang talking. One of them mentions keeping an eye on her, while another says he saw her inside. They decide to inform Fumia-kun and check there. Fumia arrives and asks about Zen's girl, claiming he wants to greet her as the school representative. His friend questions if he really intends to greet her, but Fumia-kun brushes it off. Seeing him there makes Risa anxious. She hides and wonders what to do next. Zen suddenly appears and covers her mouth to keep her silent, telling her that they are all together. He apologizes for showing up like that, saying he got tired of waiting. Risa starts to cough, and Zen apologizes for not letting her breathe. She asks why all this is happening, and Zen explains that she has trespassed into his school. She acknowledges her recklessness and reflects on it. He asks if she is disappointed because he uses his friends. She thinks to herself that she never wanted to get involved with someone like him and realizes she knows little about him. He asks if her first impression of him was pretty harsh. She replies that she saw him as a pitiful delinquent who is bad at fighting and that he's different from what she expected. He wonders why the Fumin gang isn't leaving and guesses they must not have anything to do. He thinks of calling Tuji. He suggests to Risa that they should pretend to be a couple and that she should get inside his parka to show up as a duo. He jokes that it would be embarrassing if she didn't laugh at his joke. Risa, feeling drowsy, leans her head on his shoulder. Shocked at herself, she becomes self-conscious. He teases her, saying it's bold of her to act that way in such a place. She quickly clarifies that he misunderstood. She hasn't had enough sleep because of studying. Zen offers her his shoulder to lean on and says she needs a good man's shoulder, urging her not to reject him so bluntly. She says she's fine and has a shoulder pillow to help her sleep. He warns her not to sleep in a place like this, joking that she has a lot of things in her bag and even pound formulas in her head. He calls her a masochist and admits he never enjoyed studying. She says she enjoys studying because it prevents her from overthinking and that she has no problem with it since she needs to learn a lot to live independently. She thinks to herself that she is not suited for falling in love. Zen tells her she is not alone because she has him. He proposes that she lend him what he lacks, and he will lend her what she lacks. She points out that if they keep lending things to each other, they will end up relying on each other, which he says is exactly what he wants. Zen gazes into her eyes, captivated, while Risa bows her head to her knees. He asks if she understands what he means, and she realizes it's the first time anyone has told her something like this. As she reflects, she falls asleep against the wall and begins to snore. Zen is frustrated that she fell asleep in the middle of his conversation, saying he won't forgive her for rejecting his shoulder and sleeping on the wall instead. He removes her shoulder pillow and gently places her head on his shoulder. He thinks she couldn't sleep well, perhaps due to sadness. Watching her sleep, he thinks to himself that he wants her to fall for him. Tuji soon arrives with the books and sees Zen sitting behind the wall. He asks what Zen is doing there and is about to ask about Risa when Zen signals him to stay quiet since she is sleeping. Tuji, shocked, drops the books, asking what is going on. Zen casually says it just happened. When Risa wakes up, she is horrified to see drool on Zen's shirt. Zen tells her that her mouth was open while she slept and that she swallowed a bug. Embarrassed, she apologizes and offers to pay for his laundry. He brushes it off, comparing it to petting a big dog. She asks how much time has passed and if they can leave. Zen agrees and they start to go. She notices it is 6 p.m. on the clock outside. Zen asks if she slept well, and she confirms she did. He comments that she can sleep anywhere and that it's a great skill. She realizes he waited for her to wake up and asks if he really needs her help studying and if he had been looking for her all along. He admits he will likely end up repeating a year. She explains that the Fummin gang is targeting her because she mentioned his name in front of them. She insists that he shouldn't feel responsible for her. Zen responds that for him, it's a good excuse to see her. She pauses for a moment and then hands him a coupon, saying it's a help coupon for Zen. She also writes her phone number on it and tells him he doesn't need an excuse. If he gets into trouble, she will be ready to help him. Zen begins to laugh. She quickly adds that he shouldn't use it for anything suspicious. He teases her, asking what she imagines he might do. She notes that he seems genuinely happy. He admits being happy and comments that it's incredible to have people in the world who help each other in any way they can. He stares at her, causing her to feel uneasy as she clenches her bag. She guesses that's why she helped a beaten-up delinquent like him in the first place. Suddenly, Zen hugs her, saying he has made a true ally in her. He tells her to rely on him. Then he starts shaking her slightly, and Risa shouts for him to stop and not to do anything suspicious. He assures her that his actions are not suspicious and jokingly warns her not to underestimate high school boys. He advises her to walk a little farther away from him. Meanwhile, Fumia-kun and his friends spot them. Fumia comments on Zen being a show-off. The scene shifts to Risa as she reorganizes her bag, deciding to keep only a towel and a handkerchief. She checks the first aid kit, aiming to lighten her load. She recalls Zen's offer to help but dismisses it, even though she is frustrated. Noting his help coupon, she declares that she doesn't need his assistance, but ends up placing the coupon on her study board, thinking of it as a charm. While teaching Zen and his friends, she inquires if anyone is confused. Everyone raises their hand. Risa points out that she has already explained the concept to him 3 times. Zen admits he couldn't grasp her example and still doesn't understand the situation. She offers another example, but he claims he is too sleepy. Annoyed by their lack of seriousness, Risa suggests they might as well repeat the year. Zen reminds her of the coupon and her promise to help him. Ryu pleads with her to save him from repeating the year. As Fumia-kun and his friends pass by, they are impressed to see them studying. Fumia mentions seeing them promise to help each other in trouble. Raku asks if they are dating, to which Risa replies they are not, but Zen admits they are. He explains they have a deeper bond than just dating. Risa finds their interpretation more outrageous than her earlier example. Ryu supports Zen, saying it's the best despite Zen getting beaten in fights. Ryu laughs, recalling a specific incident. He recounts how Fummin took Tuji's switch and said it would only be returned if Zen refrained from fighting back. Zen retrieved the switch after being beaten, but it broke after getting wet in the rain. Zen excuses himself to go to the bathroom, and Reiku accuses him of trying to escape. Risa reflects that Zen got beaten up for a game that wasn't even his, finding it pointless. Ryu explains that Zen values his friends more than himself, which is why people are drawn to him. He adds that everyone likes Zen after meeting him. Although Zen stands at a distance, he continues to stare at her. She approaches him, saying he can't take a break while studying. Zen protests that she is making him blush. Risa disregards his comment, and he responds that her behavior is colder than a cucumber. Risa questions if he's acting like a grade schooler. Suddenly, Toji arrives, calling for an emergency. There is an exhausted cat, and they speculate it might be separated from its companions. Risa dismisses it as just a normal cat, not a monster. Raku calls her a killjoy, while Zen labels her a realist. Toji suggests warming the cat up, but Risa says if he's not going to care for it, he shouldn't touch it. She explains that if its mother detects a human scent, it will abandon the cat. If the situation is temporary, it's better not to approach it. Toji insists that if they leave it, the cat will die. Risa remains firm that survival is the cat's responsibility. The cat runs away, and Toji asks what to do. Raku proposes running after it. Risa declares she's leaving because it's time for her cram school. They label her as cold-blooded. Toji warns Zen to stay away from her, recalling that her grandmother advised being cautious around people who are indifferent to animals. Zen mentioned that Tanaka from Class B likes cats and asked for his contact details. Toji says he knows. Zen advises him to call Tanaka and leaves. They ask where he's going, while he ponders on Risa's whereabouts. He walks by the Cram school where a group of girls greets Mizuki-kun, even though it's already evening. Mizuki notices that Amikawa-san is absent from her seat and asks about her. Her classmate, describing her as deadpan, admits they don't interact much. Others speculate that she might be tired of his classes and prefers studying alone, questioning why she enrolled in the first place. Mizuki-sensei tells them to stop. Spotting Zen nearby, he asks if Sen was with her. Overhearing the conversation, Zen asks Mizuki if he also thinks of her that way, but leaves before hearing his response. Meanwhile, Risa searches for the cat, contemplating whether to go to class but feeling compelled to ensure the cat finds its mother. As darkness falls, she worries about finding such a small animal. Reaching Suka High School, she recognizes it as the place of those guys, but decides not to get too close. She hears mewing from the poolside, goes there and calls out to the cat to come out, warning of the danger. She finds it in the deep end of the pool, and knowing how to swim, attempts to rescue it but struggles and nearly drowns. She cries out for help. Zen arrives, dives into the pool, and rescues her. She insists he help the cat, which she believes is dying. Zen calms her, telling her to hold on to him. Then she notices that the cat is sitting safely outside the pool. He reassures her that the cat is safe and focuses on her own predicament. She thanks God for her safety. Zen remarks that it should be his line and hugs her tightly. She realizes that she shouted his name. He tells her she is clumsy and rash for getting into danger. This is the first time someone has said such things to her. Zen points out that despite her earlier belief that the cat should be strong enough to survive, she still saved it. He tells her she is hopeless without him. She recalls Mizuki's remarks about not needing anyone and being able to handle things alone. She admits she is happy every time he saves her. As she speaks, Zen gets close, grabs her by the neck, and kisses her. He apologizes for the timing, saying these moments are important for girls and that he will redo it to create a better memory. Risa is stunned and unable to speak. He smiles at her, and she struggles to understand what she is feeling and what to call these new emotions. After returning home, Risa is on a call with her mother at night. Her mom urges her to find an owner for the cat quickly, explaining that they cannot keep pets. If the landlord discovers this, they will be kicked out and could end up living on the streets. Risa agrees and asks her mom to do her best during the night shift. Her mother thanks her, calling her a diligent daughter, and then hangs up, saying her break is about to end. Risa wishes her a good night. The cat is sleeping in the cage, and Risa thinks about how cats usually don't make much noise. Suddenly, she recalls the kiss with Zen, and in her distraction, she accidentally knocks over the cat milk bottle, spilling it on the floor. She remembers Zen teasing her about being clumsy and rash, saying she should rely on him. Blushing, she attempts to dismiss these thoughts from her mind. The next day, she posts an adoption flyer for the cat on the bulletin board at her Cram school. Mizuki-sensei notices her and expresses hope that she will find an owner soon. Risa thanked him for allowing her to post the flyer and explained that someone else had found the cat, but for some reason, she had to take care of it for now. Mizuki-sensei then asks about Zen, apologizing for prying but inquiring if he is a student from Shukata West High School and if he is bothering her. Risa reassures him that she is fine but wonders why she's getting upset. The teacher expresses relief and that he'll see her in class. Hearing this, she thinks that Sensei has always been kind to her and provides comfort. Suddenly, she hears a motorbike revving behind her. Turning around, she overhears two girls talking about a boy they think is cool. To her surprise, Zen appears, inviting her to hang out. Risa approaches him, while her classmates murmur about her connection to the boy from Sukata High. Despite Zen's cool demeanor, she feels a pang in her chest. Unsure of what to say, Zen asks her why she has been ignoring his calls. She makes an excuse, saying she wants to postpone their group study until she sorts out the situation with the cat. Zen gazes at her with a look that seems to offer reassurance. Risa finds herself captivated by the intensity of his eyes, quietly wondering what kind of person he truly is. Although they agreed to forget about their previous encounter at the pool, she still feels shy. She suggests they leave if there's nothing else. Zen stops her, asking if she has found someone to adopt the cat. She tells him that she is about to put up more posters for adoption. He urges her to hurry because he has already found someone interested in adopting the cat. Risa is taken aback, feeling unfamiliar with this development. Zen leads her to Tanada's house, introducing him as a school friend. Tanada refers to Zen as his savior instead of a friend. explaining how Zen saved him from bullies who treated him poorly. Risa is intrigued by this. Zen then inquires about the cat adoption, and Tanada eagerly agrees to adopt the cat, feeling that Zen has entrusted him with a significant responsibility. He introduces Risa to his two cats, Katsuo and Kanbu, and she feels relieved that they have found a new owner for the cat. Zen assures her that Tanada is very responsible with pets, so there's no need to worry. Risa is surprised by Tanada's sense of naming the cats. As they pass by a local market, a man calls out to Zen for help, and an old woman thanks him for assisting her the previous day. Zen inquires if she needs anything else. She asks how he knows so many people, and he brushes it off as normal. A lady offers him croquettes and inquires about the cat's adoption. He expresses gratitude for the community's support, and Risa wonders if Zen has been silently helping her. Zen suggests they sit on a bench to eat the croquettes. Risa mentions wanting to return something to him, but as he leans closer, she falls onto the bench. Zen points out crumbs on her cheeks, saying he just wanted to inform her. She wipes her cheeks, and when he offers to buy her a drink, she declines, stating she has water. Zen comments that this is typical of her. Risa suddenly felt startled, as she thought he was trying to kiss her again, and she rushed away to sit on a different bench. Zen attempts to follow, but his friends approach him, excited to spend time together. Femiya-kun appears in a long coat and sits beside Risa, startling her. He threatens her, saying his friends are nearby, and warning her not to make any sudden moves. Risa asks what he wants, and he claims he is there to advise her. When she asks for the nature of his advice, he suggests that if she continues seeing Zen, things will go poorly for her. Risa questions his meaning, and he demands her contact details. She refuses, insisting that she doesn't know him. In a defensive gesture, she takes out a safety bracelet from her bag, warning him to leave. Femiya-kun laughs, saying he didn't expect this reaction from her, and that she isn't being cute. Just then, Zen arrives and asks what's happening. Femiya-kun calls him a nuisance, insisting he has no business here, and makes a mocking remark about Zen. His friends rustle around them. Femiya-kun leaves, telling Risa he will be back. He looks ready to confront him, but Risa stops him, insisting she is okay. Zen expresses frustration that they must have done something to upset her. Risa reassures him again, but as she does, she realizes she may have said something wrong. Zen storms off, saying if she thinks that way, it's fine with him. When Risa returns home, she finds a note from her mom, stating she will work hard and has left some money for her. Sitting behind the cage, she reaches inside to touch the cat, cheerfully announcing that they have found an owner. The cat scoots away, and she stands up, declaring that it isn't cute. She puts on her hoodie, preparing for her exercise while watching lively TV to maintain her mental health. However, she soon notices the cat coughing and vomiting. Concerned, she considers taking it to a vet, but realizes she has missed the clinic's hours. Remembering Zen's help coupon, she hesitates before calling him, recalling their earlier moments together. Ultimately, the cat's condition prompts her to reach out. Zen arrives quickly, and together they head to the vet with the cat. The vet diagnoses dehydration and administers an IV. Risa apologizes for not noticing the cat's condition sooner. The vet reassures her that cats often pretend to be fine even when they are not. Zen teases Risa about having this trait in common with cats, and she reflects on her earlier comment about the cat not being cute. As Risa recalls her mother raising her to be a diligent girl capable of handling anything, she remembers a time in 2nd grade when she feared asking for an eraser and began carrying spare supplies. This habit gradually distanced her from others, making her feel sad and unappealing. She apologizes to Zen for not being able to continue their relationship, despite his help. He tells her she is more than cute and holds her hand, assuring her that she is cool and incredibly endearing when troubled. He confesses he likes it when she blushes and feels awkward around him. Risa blushes and asks him to stop, but Zen continues, saying it brings him joy. He leans closer, urging her to listen to his pickup lines. Risa is amazed at how he can switch to being so romantic so easily. Afterward, Zen drops her home, telling her that the cat is not in serious danger. She thanks him for coming and asks if she can do anything for him. Zen replies that he doesn't need anything, but Risa insists that mere thanks isn't enough. He suggests she do something that makes her happy. She contemplates what that might be, then suddenly leans in, grabs his collar, and kisses him. Zen stands frozen in disbelief, then falls to the ground, while Risa feels a wave of satisfaction, her feelings for him breaking free. Risa rushes into her home and shuts the door, her heart racing as she reflects on her daring actions. She can't believe she had the nerve to kiss Zen, something that both thrills and confounds her. It feels ridiculous, even though it made her happy. Now she's consumed by what Zen must be thinking of her. She peeks behind the window curtain to check if he's still standing outside. Unable to calm her nerves, she steps out onto the balcony, and to her surprise, Zen is there, thanking her for the unexpected kiss. They exchange a lingering gaze, and she realizes she might share the same feelings as him. Zen, however, simply puts on his helmet, revs his bike, and speeds off, leaving her wondering about his boldness. The next day, Risa heads to her Cram school, only to be asked by her sensei if she's alright. Feeling embarrassed, she asks him to take care of her, but then he reminds her there's no class that day. Confused, she checks her schedule and realizes she got it wrong in her excitement. In a flustered rush to leave, she drops her bag, scattering her books and stationery across the floor. Sensei helps her pick up her things, commenting that such mishaps seem to happen to her frequently. Risa excuses herself hurriedly and dashes toward the door, only to accidentally collide with it. The onlookers can't help but wonder if something is amiss with her. Dazed from the encounter, she feels lightheaded. As she collects herself, her phone rings. It's a message from Tanaka, saying he understands the cat's situation and is willing to wait until it's fully recovered. He's excited to meet the cat. However, Risa's mind drifts back to Zen. He hasn't reached out yet, and while she tries to convince herself it's normal, deep down she feels uneasy. She begins to question what kind of person he is, someone who can be happy with just a kiss, but also get angry over minor things. Sitting on a bench, she finds herself lost in thoughts about Zen's unpredictable mood swings. As she muses, Zen's friends, Ryu, Raku, and Tuji, happen to pass by. Ryu makes a teasing comment, asking if she's trying to avoid them, while Raku calls her cold-blooded. They banter with her for a while, asking what she's doing there, and Raku even asks for snacks. Curious about Zen, Risa inquires about him. Toji, in a protective tone, asks if she means her Zen, while Ryu lets slip that Zen is at home studying. This revelation makes Risa wonder if his coldness is due to his study plans. Tuji warns Ryu not to reveal too much, but Ryu presses on, asking if she's curious about Zen. While Risa tries not to show it, she is indeed curious. They take her to Zen's house, and to her astonishment, she discovers that Zen lives in a temple. The group begins loudly calling for Zen, pounding on the door and asking him to come out and play. Confused, Risa asks if they are sure this is Zen's house. When Zen finally appears, he scolds his friends, reminding them not to use the temple entrance and to use the intercom next door. His friends, however, ignore his protests, hugging him and pleading for his attention. They even apologize to Zen's mother, asking for snacks. Zen, taken aback to see Risa, asks why she's there. She explains she met his friends by chance, who then brought her along after mentioning his study plans. Inside, the boys resume their playful antics, much to Zen's frustration. Zen insists he's been studying seriously. The Raku doesn't seem to believe him, teasing that Zen must have been goofing off. His friends cling to him, questioning if something is wrong and why he's been so distant. Zen assures them everything is fine and encourages them to study as well. Risa offers to help Zen study, but he declines, admitting he can't concentrate when she's around. Raku suggests they play instead, but Risa insists Zen should focus on studying. Despite her offer, Zen firmly refuses, saying her presence makes it impossible to concentrate. Ryu tries to lure Zen into joining their games, but Zen brushes him off. As the rain starts pouring outside, Risa excuses herself, saying she needs to go home and that they'll study another time. Raku protests, saying she's only been there a short while, but Risa explains she left her laundry out on the terrace and it'll get soaked if she doesn't retrieve it. Ryu jokes that laundry isn't more important than their company, but Risa insists she can't let her laundry sit in the rain, explaining the stench it'll cause. As she leaves, Zen offers to walk her home, but she politely declines, saying she'll be fine. Once she's gone, Raku teases Zen, asking if she has anyone waiting for her at home, to which Ryu speculates her parents are probably busy. At home, she hurriedly gathers her laundry and hangs it under a shaded area. As she tries to study, her thoughts keep drifting back to Zen, his cold demeanor, his abrupt mannerisms. Her curiosity gets the better of her, and she finds it hard to concentrate. Perhaps she's overthinking, she muses. Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder shakes the house. Frightened, she remembers how much she dislikes thunderstorms, especially being alone during one. Her phone buzzes with a message from her mother, apologizing for not coming home due to the heavy rain. Risa reassures her mother that everything is fine, but in truth, she's scared. Attempting to calm herself, Risa closes the window shutters. Memories of her childhood resurface when she would hide under her sheets during storms. She presses her hands to her ears, willing herself to be brave, reminding herself she's not a child anymore. Yet despite her attempts at courage, Zen's face unexpectedly pops into her mind. Without thinking, she picks up her phone to call him, but accidentally dials him instead. Zen answers, asking if something's wrong. Embarrassed, Risa assures him she's fine, but in her nervousness, she admits her fear of thunder. He quickly picks up on her anxiety and asks if she's alone and scared. Risa feels a pang of regret for being so transparent, but Zen expresses how happy he is that she called him, even if it was just to talk about her fear. His reaction surprises her. When she questions why such a trivial call makes him happy, Zen's friends interrupt the conversation, asking if he's talking to a girl. To avoid teasing, he quickly tells them she's his sister. Despite the interruption, Zen sends his friends away, who continue to make noise in the background, pestering him about why he's not studying. Risa notes how loud things are on his end, but eventually his friends leave him alone. Zen takes the opportunity to ask Risa for help with a subject he's struggling to understand. She reminds him of his earlier comment about not being able to concentrate with her around. Zen confesses that ever since the kiss, he hasn't been able to stop thinking about her, making it impossible to focus when she's near. He half-jokingly warns her not to underestimate the distraction she poses. Risa, feeling a mix of amusement and disbelief, asks why he's been so intent on studying. He admits that it's because he's become greedy for her attention. He's afraid that even if she doesn't fall for him or like someone else, he'll keep wanting to protect her. That kiss, he says, lit a fire within him, driving him to become her number one. Risa, taken aback by his honesty, confesses that her feelings are mutual. For the first time in her life, she wants to experience the same things as someone else and share her world with him. Zen, encouraged by her words, suggests they go on a date and spend an entire day together. He makes a deal. If he scores 100 on his next exam, Risa has to tell him more about herself. Risa skeptically laughs, saying 100 is impossible. Zen bargains for 50 points instead. Though the gap seems large, Risa agrees. The conversation lightens as Zen playfully asks where he should take her for their date. Risa insists on someplace safe, and he teasingly suggests a zoo, only to joke about the animals possibly being in their mating season. When he proposes a theme park full of couples, she shuts down the idea, telling him to focus on getting 50 marks first before planning anything. They continue talking for hours, with Zen even asking her favorite type of miso soup. Risa, smiling, mentions she prefers it with onions and eggs. Eventually, Risa grows tired and lies down, continuing their conversation until she falls asleep. She wakes the next morning with her alarm blaring, realizing in shock that she was on the phone all night. Checking her call history, she notices Zen hung up sometime after the thunderstorm subsided. This morning feels different for him too. He yawns while heading to school with his friends, Raku and Ryu. When asked if he didn't sleep, Zen admits he couldn't stop thinking about Risa. Ryu teases him, asking if it's something dirty, to which Zen replies, "It's love." Their laughter echoes through the streets, while Tuji lingers behind, seemingly distant and preoccupied. The next day, Risa finds herself replaying Zen's words in her mind, his declaration to be her number one echoing like a distant bell. Upon arriving at school, she is surprised to see him already standing outside, waiting for her. He motions for her to get on his bike, and when she questions his presence, he casually replies that he's there to pick her up for group study. Risa, somewhat taken aback, reminds him of their earlier arrangement. She had planned to meet him and his friends at the park. Zen, undeterred, dismisses the plan, claiming he couldn't wait to see her. Just as Zen starts his bike, it sputters and dies, out of gas. He asks her to wait while he refills the tank, but Risa, not wanting to inconvenience him, assures him she can walk to the park as it's not far. Despite her protests, he quickly returns and insists she get on the bike. Still, she refuses, determined to walk, and heads off alone, a bit flustered. As she walks, she reflects on Zen's words, how he couldn't wait to see her, and wonders if her reluctance to accept his offers of kindness will ever allow her to express her true feelings. On her way, she passes a couple wrapped in an intimate embrace, a scene that makes her think about her own relationship with Zen. She realizes that despite the growing affection between them, such displays of affection still feel like a distant reality. Lost in thought, Risa's attention wavers, and she steps in something unpleasant. Frustrated, she finds a nearby water tap to clean her shoe, just as Zen's friends approach her. Ryu and the others appear mildly curious, teasing her about what she's doing. Their casual mockery irritates her, but she remains composed. Later, the group gathers for study, but Risa quickly notices a lack of focus among Zen's friends. Ryu complains of hunger, and Raku suggests taking another break, even though they had already paused for a snack just 30 minutes earlier. Risa turns to Zen, hoping he might keep them on track, but his friend's disinterest is clear. Even as he tries to solve problems with her guidance, his frustration grows as the others joke around. Eventually, Ryu and Raku announce they are heading to a convenience store for food, leaving Zen and Risa alone. Zen, determined to keep studying, asks her for help with a particular problem. He's focused on scoring at least 50 points in his upcoming exams, driven by his goal to impress her. But Risa, though willing to assist, feels a mix of fear and uncertainty. She wonders what will happen after Zen achieves his goal, knowing that their arrangement of a date still lingers in the air. After a tiring session, Zen manages to solve a question correctly, and Risa approves, though she can sense his fatigue. With the study session winding down, Zen's friends still haven't returned, and he calls them, urging them to come back. Ryu answers but refuses, explaining that they no longer care about studying and are hanging out at an arcade instead. Risa, hearing the conversation, feels disappointed. Zen grows angry at their betrayal of the group study plan, declaring that he will bring them back by force if necessary. But Risa intervenes, advising him not to act out of anger. She tells him that his friends won't improve unless they have the motivation to study themselves. Though frustrated, Zen agrees and shifts his focus back to his own studies. As he continues to work, Risa notices a rare moment of vulnerability in him. He opens up about how much his friends mean to him, explaining that they're like family. Fudo, his childhood friend, and Ryu, Raku, and Toji. Each of them had become an integral part of his life since different stages of his schooling. He admits that he wishes to move forward to the next grade alongside them, but their lack of motivation is weighing heavily on his heart. Risa sees a side of Zen that she hadn't before, a deep care for those close to him, even when they aren't pulling their weight. For the first time, Zen seems unsure of what to do. That night, Risa prepares personalized study notes for Zen's friends, determined to help him in any way she can. The next morning, she finds them hanging out again. Ryu, as usual, makes a snarky comment, asking if she's there for Zen. When she corrects them, explaining that she's come to help them with their studies, Raku dismisses her efforts. But Risa remains firm, explaining that their lack of study discipline is hurting Zen, and she can't stand to see him sad. She hands them the notes, which she's carefully tailored to their individual learning styles. At first, the boys are skeptical, but as they examine the notes, they realize the thought and effort she's put in. They slowly come to appreciate her concern, particularly when she insists that they can succeed if they just try. Fudo, who had remained silent until then, finally speaks, expressing his respect for Risa's dedication. Raku, still hesitant, admits that they hadn't wanted to burden Zen with their struggles, believing he was better off focusing on his own goals. But now they see that their inaction has been affecting him. Moved by Risa's words, they agree to give studying a real effort, deciding to put their faith in her guidance. As she walks away, Zen, who had been listening in the background, steps out and thanks her for what she's done. He expresses his gratitude, grasping her hand and pulling her closer. Risa, flustered by his proximity, tries to downplay the moment, but Zen gazes into her eyes, telling her that she's a warm-hearted person, far more than she lets on. For a brief moment, the tension between them softens, and Risa feels as though Zen can see through the layers she keeps hidden. As the day ends, Risa prepares to leave, insisting that she's fine to walk home, but just as she's about to go, she turns back and shyly asks Zen if he can give her a ride after all. Zen, with a mischievous grin, scoots her up and places her on the bike, teasing her that he's been waiting for her to ask. Risa, though flustered, feels a lightness in her heart, realizing that her connection with Zen is deepening, even in the midst of their everyday challenges. They ride off together, Zen asking if she prefer a beach trip for their next outing, but Risa playfully insists that she just wants to make it to her class on time. Zen is absorbed in his mobile when his friends, curious, ask if he's on a video call. Irritated by their intrusion, he snaps at them for jumping in. Meanwhile, they've received their test results and eagerly inform Risa-sensei that everyone has passed. They express their gratitude, praising her for her dedication in helping them succeed. Zen, having scored over 50 marks in every subject, proudly tells her that he's kept his promise. He reminds her about their planned date and tells her that he will pick her up on Sunday at 11 in the morning. Risa, contemplating the upcoming date, is unsure where they will go. She is filled with uncertainty, wondering what to wear and what she should bring. She spends time preparing, aligning her dress, shoes, bag, and coat. However, on Sunday morning, she begins feeling feverish. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, and to her surprise, Zen is standing outside, ready to take her on their date. Although she had texted him to postpone the outing, Zen shows up, explaining that he suspected she might be unwell, given her usual diligence in keeping promises. As he stands in front of her, Risa senses that he might be able to see through her. Zen asks if she has visited the hospital or if he should take her there himself. He hands her a bag containing juices and ice cream, casually mentioning that he bought them on a whim. Risa thanks him, and he reminds her to take care of herself. As they converse, Risa's cat meows from behind her. Zen asks if the cat is crying, and Risa explains that she hasn't fed it yet. He wonders why she hasn't asked her family for help, to which Risa responds that her parents are busy with work. Zen, without hesitation, enters the house and sits by the cat's cage, offering to assist her while her parents are unavailable. Although he assures her he is not forcing his help, he insists that there is little choice in the matter. He then asks why the cat is still at her house when it was supposed to be in Tanaka's custody. Risa feeds the cat and mentions that while it is energetic, she is still treating it for fleas. She has named the cat Chaos, a revelation that surprises Zen. When she explains the name comes from the cat's chaotic behavior, Zen comments on her poor naming skills, which frustrates Risa. While in the kitchen boiling milk, Risa accidentally burns her hand and cries out in pain. Zen rushes over, grabs her hand, and holding her from behind, asks if she is all right. Risa assures him that she is fine, but Zen offers to handle the situation for her, asking what to do next. She instructs him to prepare the milk by mixing 40 grams of milk with 1/100th of hot water and cooling it in water. Zen eagerly takes on the task, determined to make the perfect milk for the cat. As Zen observes her home, he notices the flower pots, family photos, and various personal items, including her clothing. Risa, busy with her laundry, regrets not completing these tasks the day before. She grows anxious when Zen enters her room while she is folding her clothes, particularly her undergarments. Nervous, she quickly hides her panties in her pocket, unsure if Zen saw them. When he asks if something is wrong, she avoids the topic. Still unshowered and in her pajamas, she reflects on the messiness of her space and her delayed plans to freshen up after her fever subsides. As she contemplates her next steps, Zen grabs her hand and moves closer, noticing her distraction. He asks why she is spacing out, to which Risa dismissively responds that she is fine. Zen, however, playfully bans the word fine, claiming she will owe him 10,000 yen if she uses it again, since she clearly isn't well. He suggests that she let him take care of her, but Risa adamantly refuses. Zen, undeterred, attempts to carry her to her bed, lamenting that it hurts him when she pushes him away. Risa retreats to her bed, pulling a blanket over herself. Zen offers her a drink, but she declines and insists that he should leave. He pretends to depart by closing the door, but Risa soon discovers he is still there, sitting on a chair nearby. He tells her he will not leave until she falls asleep, refusing to let her stay alone while she is unwell. Risa feels embarrassed by her own vulnerability, sensing that Zen might see through her emotions once again. As they continue their interaction, Zen offers to sing her a lullaby. Risa, though rejecting the offer, apologizes for missing their date. Zen reassures her that there is no need to worry, as they can go on their date whenever she feels better. When Risa inquires where he had planned to take her, Zen reveals that they were going to dig potatoes. He explains that his family visits his grandmother's field every year during this season to help with the harvest. He shares that last year, he brought his friends along and that it would be more fun if she could join them. Risa expresses amusement, confessing that she had spent the entire week deciding what to wear, even researching some trendy places to visit. She laughs at the unexpected simplicity of digging potatoes, prompting Zen to note that it's the first time he has seen her laugh like that. Embarrassed, she covers her face, but he ends up lying near her on the bed. Worried that he might catch her cold, she warns him to stay away, but Zen insists that she can pass it to him freely. As the moment becomes more intimate, Zen pulls her closer, nearly kissing her before stopping himself. He apologizes, explaining that she is so cute that it's hard to resist. Risa, flustered, turns her head away, signaling that she is about to sleep. Zen tells her to dream of him, and his presence causes her fever to rise even more. Despite feeling dizzy and overwhelmed, Risa finds comfort in his closeness. Both of them eventually fall asleep, with Zen resting his head on the bed beside her. As Risa dreams, she recalls her childhood, remembering the times when her mother would leave her alone after giving her medicine, making her feel isolated and scared. However, this time, when she wakes up, Zen is still there, sleeping nearby. She realizes she has been asleep for hours and notices messages on Zen's phone from his friends, asking him to hang out. Gently, she brushes his face with her fingers, and in a moment of vulnerability, admits to herself that she likes him. As she leans in to kiss him, Zen suddenly wakes up, causing her to pull away in surprise. He grabs her arm, kisses her, and expresses that he likes her too. Then he kisses her again.
Here I am, know it's been a while.